Hello 9IG, this is Mujahid Sartawi and welcome to the computer science class. Today we will continue solving the past papers and let's see this paper here, which is May June 2018. Let's see if we have any questions related to chapter 7, high level and low level languages. I think it's question 8. 8. Okay, Dimitri is writing a program in a high-level language. He needs to send just the machine code for the program to his friend of the program for his friend electronically. It is important that the program is executed as quickly as possible. Identify which translator would be most suitable for Dimitri to use. Explain your choice. Okay, remember something that we have mainly you have to think about two different types of translators here, even interpreter or the compiler. But we know that the interpreter is too slow because it translates every individual line in the code or every statement in the program. So that's why we will choose here the compiler. Okay. Now, why the compiler? Because the compiler is very quick, is going to be used here because it's very quick. It doesn't take that much of time, and it's suitable for this situation. So let's see the answers again. The compiler. You can choose any one of these explanations. For example, it doesn't require recompilation. Compiled program can be executed without compiler, and so his friend doesn't need any other compilers to do this. Therefore, it allows faster execution and also provides an executable file. So that's why allows him to just send the machine code. So Dimitri's friend doesn't need translation compilation software to execute the program in case that Dimitri uses the compiler. Okay, let's go to another question. Let's go to May June 2015. And I have a question for you, a big question actually, and it's very useful. Okay, question number 9. 5 statements about, of course, we are starting with section A. 5 statements about interpreters and compilers are shown in the table below. Study each statement and tick to show whether the statement refers to an interpreter or compiler. Let's start with the first statement, and I will explain why did I choose these answers. Creates an executable file that runs directly on the computer. Of course, the compiler. If you go back to the book, to the textbook, we talked about this. The compiler creates an executable file which runs directly on the computer machine, and the next statement is more likely to crash the computer since the machine code produced runs directly on the processor. Also, the compiler the compiler also is the best choice here because it's going to produce the machine code which will be directly on the processor rather than the interpreter. Easier to debug. Debug means to refer to fix or to see the problems. Since each line, so this keyword helps us to identify the answer for these questions, which is interpreter. So because we have here each line of code is analyzed and checked before being executed, we choose the interpreter because the interpreter is going to check each line of the code. Now, slow speed of execution of program loops, we know that interpreter is slower than the compiler. That's why we used we checked here on the interpreter. It's more difficult to modify the executable code since it is in the machine code format. Of course, we are talking about the compiler. Once you use the compiler, you can't modify the executable code. Let's go to B. B here state why a compiler or interpreter is needed when running high-level language on a computer. Because we need all the data to be continue. Again, let me read the question again. State why a compiler or interpreter is needed when running a high-level language or high-level program on a computer. We know that the program written in high-level language, it's for the human. The human can understand it, but the machine cannot understand it. So we need a translator to translate the human language into a machine code. So we need to transfer the code from a high level into a low level so that the computer system can understand it. So if you say that, you can get 1 mark for this question. Let's see the answers in the mark scheme. This is B. So we need, again, as we said, a code is required to be converted into the machine or code or binary. You can say this point and you will get 1 mark. Code needs to be produced that can be understood by the computer. Let's go now to C. Give 1 benefit of writing a program in a high-level language. Why do we need to write programs in high-level language? We know that writing in a high-level language, it's easy for humans. They can understand it easily. They can debug it or to fix the problems, to see the problems, to see all the code and what is it all about. So close to English, native human language, as we said, and easier, faster to correct errors or debugging or reading or writing, works on many different machines or operating system, which means it's portable. D. Give 1 benefit of writing a program in a low-level language. Why do we need sometimes? Okay, we need sometimes to make drivers for hardware. When we are talking about the hardware level, the high complexity, we need some professionals, engineers to write programs in a low-level languages. So in this case, we need this is a benefit of writing in a low-level language, or we can see it's directly close to the registers or the CPU or the hardware, more control over what happens in the computer system, and it can be used by professionals. It can use machine-specific functions like identifying special hardware or drivers for the computers. Now let's go down to E. Study the following 3 sections of code, A, B, C. So here we have different blocks. Let's add something here. So we have block number 1, and we have block number 2, and block number 3. So which one of these blocks is assembly code, high-level language, machine code? Let's see. Assembly code, of course, this is the assembly code. Okay. High-level language, of course, this one. So this one is a machine code. Sorry, the high-level language. The one in the top, so this one in the top is the machine code. Okay. So this is how we identify different types of codes. So remember, when you see zeros and ones, it means it's what? A machine code. And when you see something very related to the human language, which contains very native words or statements. It's a high-level language. When you see a code which contains letters of English, numbers maybe, but it's you cannot understand them. You don't know the abbreviations for them, so it is what assembly code for of course. So this is all for today. I hope that you try at home to solve some extra past papers. This is all for today. Thank you and goodbye.